Good evening and welcome to a Day in the Job series by Career Development Cell IIT Madras, which is intended to help provide a glimpse into various sectors via sessions and conversations with alumni. My name is Ashish Bishlani, a pre-final year and placement core team member for the year ahead. In today's session, we would be exploring the consulting sector. With regards to campus placements, consulting refers to management consulting and has been one of the most sought after opportunities on campus. It involves working for a consultancy, providing strategy and management advice to client firms. To understand this in depth, we have with us Shruti Agarwal today. Shruti Agarwal is currently an associate at BCG, a Boston consulting group. She graduated from campus in 2019 with a B.Tech in mechanical engineering with a minor in operations management. She has previously interned at Nomura Global Markets. On campus, she's co-headed the IPR placement team and was the captain of Institute basketball team. Hi, Shruti. Thank you for taking a time out of your schedule and joining us today. So to begin the session, it'd really be helpful if you could give us a brief introduction to management consulting from your perspective.
Yeah, sure. So management consulting, let me give you an example to explain how this works.
Sure.
Okay? So it's like being a business doctor, right? Like how we go to a doctor with certain problems that we have or with certain goals for our health, right? We go to a doctor and then what does the doctor do?
Provides us like diagnostics.
Yes, exactly. So he's going to ask you questions about, say, what's your temperature? How have you been feeling since a few days? He does any tests if required. And then he comes up with a solution, right? I think this is the problem that you are facing. Probably you have a viral fever. And these are the medicines you can take to solve your problem. So very similarly, even consulting is about solving business problems. Okay. So a company, an organization comes to a consultant and asks him, see, I have this problem. So maybe, for example, I'm a client, I'm a company who sells some goods, maybe say biscuits. And I go to a consultant and says, I want to increase my sales. That's a problem and that's my goal. Or maybe a problem that I'm facing could be my sales have been declining. Or it could simply be anything, could simply be any problem in an organization. Maybe my workforce is leaving too often. I don't know what to do. So can you solve my problem? So that's where a consultant comes into play.
Correct.
He then tries to understand what the problem is. He's going to ask you, okay, so what are your current sales? What have been your sales since few years? He looks at different data from the client itself and then comes up with, a certain set of solutions that you can provide to the client. Now, so this is a very overall definition, I would say, of what consultants do. It's basically to solve organization problems. There are different ways, there are a lot of intricacies into how they can, come up with the final set of recommendations or final things to do, things to implement with the client. But overall, this is what consulting is. And consulting is in different fields. It could be IT consulting, where you are helping your client with setting their IT systems in place, because big organizations obviously have a lot of IT security things to take care of. So it could be in IT, it could be in HR, it could be in financial advisory. There are a lot of fields of consulting which might need specializations, which is called niche consulting. But there is one which is management consulting, which is overall. Correct. So it looks at any organization's problem. It need not be business. It can be something with the government also. The government might be like, COVID is happening. What do we do? How long do we keep the lockdown? Things like that as well. So.
Sure. So, as you mentioned, management consulting is sort of broad. It's not exactly related to management. So the problem statements come from any particular domains, or even that is just as wide. You can have something in IT consulting as well as a project, or not really.
So it is quite wide, but at places which requires very niche skills. For example, if it's IT, and within IT, it's about various, which specific product should I use in IT?
I see.
And how do I go about building that product for my organization? So something which is very niche and very specific, you wouldn't want to go to a management consultant
Correct.
because his expertise lies more with the organization, like management level things. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like something which is very niche, like very specific to a specific domain. That's where you don't go to a management consultant. You would rather prefer to going to someone who has done consulting in that specific field.
Got it. Sure.
But to answer that question, we do have like a wide variety of problems that.
I see. And like on campus, we have touched with a number of management consultings coming. So, do you think the nature of work or the kind of projects they get vary? Like, does every firm have some sort of speciality, or you can sort of get a wide spectrum in each of the firms itself?
Um, so a lot of firms actually have wide variety of projects coming in, and from campus, if you are going to any of these firms, I think you would still have an exposure to different kinds of projects. Definitely you wouldn't be doing only one kind of project all throughout the year. So there is wide variety, but on the other hand, there are firms which kind of specialize in their own practices as well. So that the reason for that is basically, for example, a firm X has been working with social sector practice with the government,
Correct.
and they have had experience in that, so they tend to get more of those projects as well. So it is quite possible that a certain firm has some expertise, have more percentage of projects of a certain sector,
Correct.
and yeah, but they will definitely have projects across sectors.
Sure. Got it.
Does that answer your question?
Totally does.
Yeah.
So, like this was sort of more of a high-level explanation of what the sectors and what scope has. So, like particularly during your 1 year in BCG, how do you describe an average day in your life on work?
Yeah, so this I actually thought about this question, and
Sure.
it's not an easy question to answer. The thing about consulting, I feel, is there's a lot of uncertainty about what you would be doing, and it depends a lot on a day. Like you asked, a day in the
Correct.
job depends on what kind of project you are on. There are different kinds of projects. For example,
Correct.
there are projects which are more implementation based, which
Nice.
will be helping the client to do something on the ground,
Okay.
getting things implemented. And there are other kinds of projects which are strategy projects, where you don't really do anything on the ground, but you sort of just understand what is happening in the organization,
Correct.
analyze the data, and come up with a certain set of solutions, where you won't be like implementing things, and
Correct.
there are cases where you'll be implementing things. So I think to start with, a day starts with a set of things to do, and it ends with maybe a certain other things that you have done. Probably not that.
Okay.
So that's something I've observed very often. But let me just give you an example of each of these two,
Sure.
the implementation kind of cases
Yeah.
and the strategy kind of cases. When you implement it, I mean, let me know if it's getting too detailed and if it's not able to match what you're looking for. We can
Sure.
just keep
Right.
sharing.
Definitely.
Yeah. So in implementation kind of cases, maybe I would say 50% of the time you are working with the client on
Okay.
something. You are either following up with the client, to do something on the ground. For example,
Correct.
like I was working to create a tool with my client.
Okay.
The tool had to be launched. It was like a product to be launched on the ground.
Nice.
So almost 50% of my time I was, interacting with them to understand where is it lying right now. What are the problems that are coming in between?
Correct.
What can we do to solve it? How can we increase the speed of delivery and things like that? The other 50% of the time usually went into creating presentations, doing analysis. Yeah, like
Sure.
creating decks is like a thing in consulting. It's a great skill to pick up because you learn how to represent your thoughts,
I,
what you are thinking, and that's a best way to communicate, right? How, I mean, words definitely, but if you want to like show something about what you're thinking,
correct.
using pictures and slides, that's a
Hmm.
great way to communicate. So,
Got it.
okay, just coming back.
No.
So that's one. On implementation, you would spend some time with the client, with different stakeholders,
Correct.
making sure the things are on ground, it's running smoothly. The time you are perhaps doing some analysis on Excel or creating documents, etc.
Sure.
So, and on strategy kind of cases is again, I think there's again a lot that you work with the client even here
Hmm.
because if it's a strategy case, it's basically like how I explained it to you with the doctor example. So
Correct.
I know this is a problem they are facing. So I look at their data. I probably get their sales data. I analyze the data, like see what are the various trends in the data,
Correct.
and then come up with, okay, so what can we do now? Why is this happening? What you have like brainstorming meetings with your teammates, and you just come up with final set of things. Like find what the core problem is, and then try to solve the problem.
Sure.
You talk to different experts in the industry,
Hmm.
to because you definitely do not know it.
Correct.
So you talk to other people.
Sure. So, like you mentioned, like there's a lot of data analysis. Like you'll have what the company's been doing with, you have data, you need to process it. So, like, does as a consultant, do you need stuff like data analytics skills on the fly, or is that not something you deal with directly?
No, so the answer is yes and no.
Okay.
You don't need any analytic skills when you come in. You
Okay.
definitely, uh, but would need it while you do it on the job. So it's that it's fine that you don't have it. You come in and
Okay.
you learn it on the go.
I see.
So yeah, like there are teammates of yours, there are colleagues who are willing to help you. There are
Correct.
different workshops that they conduct so that you learn. And most of the time, it's basic analysis. It's
Correct.
usually using Excel or a couple of other tools that your firm might have,
Okay.
which you will learn and you can do.
Sure.
And if there is some extensive analysis, right? If there is more detailed analysis, more technical one,
Hmm.
you also have other teams that support you,
Oh, okay.
whom you can request for help, and they will just help you analyze it.
Got it. So,
Yeah.
like, based on like your 1 year of working BCG, what are some aspects that you find really interesting and keep you working each day?
Hmm. So to be honest, so there are good days, there are bad days. There are days when you don't want to work,
I
and
agree.
you just have to push yourself through it. There are days which are good. What keeps me pushing? Uh, to be very honest, I think I chose it, right?
Yeah.
So that's why I work for it now,
Correct.
and the reason why I had chosen it because is is that I knew I am learning.
Hmm.
I will learn in
Correct.
the process. While it seems hard on that
Huh.
specific day, I know I will learn.
Correct.
So the thing that pushes me through is basically having that faith that in the end it will be fine. I will be better
True.
version of myself.
You got it. And when you're working on a project, at what sort of a depth do you really understand the sector that you're really working with?
It's a very good question. It depends on your specific piece of work,
Hmm.
very honestly. There are certain types of work where you don't go into enough depth. You
Correct.
basically just uh, like understand it to an extent that you are able to get the result,
Correct.
right? So that is one kind of work. There are others where you might have to go into more details
Hmm.
just to understand how it works and so that you can come up with the problem and solution.
Hmm.
Hmm. There are a lot. The thing is, any work, right? Any sector, for example, it's gonna have a lot of details. Correct?
Correct.
definitely going to have a lot of details.
Sure.
But what you as a consultant would end up looking at is only the things that matter
Correct.
to the result or to the outcome. That I think that's the crux. So you wouldn't have obviously the in-depth knowledge of everything that's going on in the organization, but you will understand the things that matters
Correct.
to get a certain outcome.
Yeah.
For
So,
example, if it's yeah,
sure, go ahead, go ahead.
go ahead. No, if it's for example looking at sales, right? Sales of an organization and to improve sales or their productivity, you look at various aspects which are related to sales. For example, it could be how different how you basically get customers, right? How you basically find customers, how you
Correct.
convince customers, how capable is the sales force to sell, how are the negotiation skills.
Correct.
So things which are very much related to your output is what you would look at as a consultant, wherein
Correct.
an organization will have a lot of other details and a lot of other things happening which you wouldn't be aware of
Correct.
or you wouldn't like indulge into, I would
Correct.
say.
So, like within the sector, you might have the part which is relevant to your project, a subset.
Correct. And that is where you would deep dive and look at things.
Got it. So,
Yeah.
yeah. So, do you think the learnings from consulting is there anything that is really specific to this sector that is not really found in, let's say, another role? Like that might be sort of indicative to why you might have gone for this sector itself, consulting.
Sorry, can you repeat your question?
So, any sort of learnings or value additions you might have, you might gain while working in a consulting role, as opposed to any other exit from campus.
Oh, what are the value additions consulting will have
Yeah,
compared to others?
correct. Like what's unique to
Sectors?
this consulting role as such?
So, like I mentioned, uncertainty, right? I think
Yeah.
that's very unique to consulting.
Okay.
So over a period, the thing is there are different projects that will keep coming, and you will be shifting from one project to another project to another project.
Correct. Yeah.
So what work you will do, who you will work with, and who you
Correct.
will, which client you work for. That's all going to be different for different projects.
Correct.
So this is unlike in other sectors where you work with a certain set of people, you learn how to do work with them, and then you continue working with them,
Correct.
which is what my perspective has been, right? कि दूसरे
Sure.
companies में you will see you will work on one thing and you will continue to work on it, maybe improve, like in the same field, in that same work that you were doing, maybe you will do improvisations,
Correct.
but you will continue working there.
Yeah.
But in consulting, you will
Sure.
work with different people, different work altogether, different industry. So I think that's something very unique.
True. And typically, what does the timeline tend to be for these projects?
Timeline of the project is it depends. If it depends, it could be from a month to an year,
I see.
or yeah, it could be from a month to an year. It depends on what kind of project it is. So if it's a strategy project, like I mentioned earlier,
Correct.
it's usually a shorter duration where you just work with the client, come up with certain things that client should do, and then tell the client to implement it.
Correct.
Whereas if it's an implementation project, you work with the client. Along with the client, you work and get those things done until you see the results of
I see.
what you had proposed to the client. So
Got
the
it.
project length that's why varies a lot.
Got it. And once you're within a firm, do you have flexibility to keep shifting within taking projects from various sectors? Or let's say the first project you took is in said sector, maybe in FMCG. Would your next projects be in the same domain necessarily, or you have that kind of leeway?
That's a good question. So I think it depends on the firm which you are working with.
Okay.
Usually, consulting firms try to give you exposure in different industries, right?
Okay.
But it can also happen like it's it totally depends on case to case. I would
Hmm.
not want to generalize this.
Sure, sure.
The consulting firms try to make an effort, to give you
Hmm.
experience in different sectors,
Correct.
but it sometimes also happens that you do well in one sector, and project leaders who are working in that sector
Hmm.
might want to take you to the same sector again because you have already had experience in it.
True, true.
So I would say you're
Makes sense. So, yeah. So, just one angle, if you don't mind, I go back to you mentioned like some days
sure,
are
sure.
good and some days aren't so good. So, like, what are some aspects that might get cumbersome on a day-to-day basis when working in a consultancy?
Yeah, it's important to know.
Yeah.
Um, so it's so consulting is not a easy job, and
Hmm.
let me start it this way. Like from college, now we are moving to working, right?
Hmm.
It's start of a new world altogether. Like it's start of a new journey, and you are just starting this journey. So
Hmm.
definitely you do not have enough knowledge. Like you are just a new person in the journey. You do not have any experience in the same thing,
Correct.
right? So you will not know a lot of things despite you are like a best engineering student or best graduate student from IIT,
Hmm.
you are not going to know things. So, but that's where it comes, right? You are going to learn a lot of things.
Correct.
So it comes with a challenge.
Hmm.
You are in an environment now in consulting. You are in an environment where everyone, right? You are the most junior, most in the consulting firm,
Correct.
and everyone knows more than you. They have had more
Hmm.
experience in working in consulting than you. So definitely there is a lot that you personally would have to improve
Correct.
and learn,
Hmm.
and that's what comes with a challenge. You have you don't have enough time. There are deadlines to come, and you have to learn and deliver both at the same time.
I
So
see.
that's where things get challenging,
Hmm.
and you would probably not be used to it.
Correct.
So those are the days where you just feel like, why am I here?
Sure.
But definitely there will come days where you will look back and think, you will think, oh, maybe that was worth it.
Correct.
Because hadn't you been in that tough position, you wouldn't have learned something that now you know.
True. So it's like sort of probably hectic, but it also pushes you towards doing something
Correct.
significant.
Yeah, yeah.
Sure. So yeah, as if we observe the people from engineering colleges to get into consulting, it's quite a fairly common trend that they do not stay with the firm for more than 2 years. A
Hmm.
few of them switch from one consultancy to the other, but a major chunk tend to actually leave the consulting domain itself. So
Hmm.
it's
Hmm.
like sort of two questions. One, why is the trend so? What are the avenues that people are able to switch to?
Hmm. So the trend of leaving consulting, I think it's pretty much common, like you said, in all the consulting firms.
Nice.
But when they usually leave, like in some firms, they usually leave early because consulting firm itself
Hmm.
nurtures.
I see.
Yeah, so they themselves, encourage you to look for other things as well and then enter there.
I see.
Right. Yeah. So that's a culture which is encouraged within the firm. Now there are firms which not like particularly encourage this,
Hmm.
but you will find people still leaving that firm as well.
Correct.
I think that is because of multiple factors.
Hmm.
Um, One I would say is once they have been in consulting, right?
Hmm.
They are exposed to different industries. They might get a sense of which industry they specifically
I see.
want to work in, and they could switch to that industry.
Hmm.
And consulting itself is not made for everyone. Like there
Correct.
are people who are natural at consulting and who can stay longer, and also enjoy it at the same time.
Correct.
But it's also not an easy job. So not everyone would want to do consulting. And honestly, when we are in campus, right, we don't really understand what it's going to be like, to work at a certain place, at any place.
Correct.
So your starting years are mostly about trying those things out, and places how you like it, how you don't like it, you leave and go to other work.
True. So,
Now there is, mhm.
wait.
Yeah. So your second question of where all do they go to?
Yeah.
There are many places like they go to and they can go to, honestly.
Okay.
There are private equities, venture capitalists who will reach out by themselves to you, to apply and then to give interviews with them.
Okay.
You can definitely go for an MBA later on if you want. You can move into technology if you want. You can,
Correct.
because you're working with different clients in industries, you also maybe you start liking a certain client, company, and you want to work with them. So you
I
can
see.
also move working with them. I think pretty much the options that consulting provides when you move out are quite wide. And hence consulting can be used as a sorry, and hence consulting can be used as a platform to understand where you want to work later in.
I see.
Yeah.
And let's say a person like entering consulting figure out that is, let's say, their cup of tea. What is the career progression within a consulting firm look like? What is the end goal there?
The end goal there is becoming a partner. I don't know if
Okay,
someone has that goal.
sure. But other than
Uh,
that, most people who don't aspire to be a partner would invariably drop out at some point in time for some different career path, is it?
yeah, yeah. If someone doesn't want to be in that place for a long time, eventually they might just move to working on something they really like.
Got it.
Yeah.
Sure. So yeah, we covered this. What about the trend? Like, do people like, let's say they are able to switch to so many fields? Like, are they at a good enough position to shift to any sector they wish to, or it's again very subjective and person based to which sector they're able to switch?
Hmm. Is there any specific sector you have in mind that you want to ask about?
Like, maybe it's, let's say, startups, because like when you
Hmm.
enter startups, are the skills really matching? Is why people either go to a startup or create their own startups after consulting or something like that.
Hmm. So one thing about consulting is that it teaches you how to get things done very well.
Correct.
So, and this is a skill which will come handy in any place you would go to. So if we look at startups specifically, I think definitely yes. After working here, you will have a good opportunity to go work in different startups. Mostly in managerial positions is what I would think of.
Sure.
One place where I'm not sure if consultants would go is something. Hmm, actually, I'm not sure on that. I mean, if it's something very niche and very particular, right? You need to develop that skill set before you go there.
Correct.
So it depends on the skill set. Like to be honest, like depends on where you want to go. I mean,
Got it. So the opportunities are just as wide always.
it is, yeah.
Sure.
You know what? Honestly, opportunities are wide from. There are many opportunities. Like there are many opportunities. Definitely, consulting. What it does is, uh, it's like a fast track a little bit. Where you learn
Okay.
because you equip yourself with a lot of things in a short span of time. So you can probably access to more opportunities. But
That's
in any other company as well, you can anytime leave that company and start thinking of what you want to do. There is, I think, in this world, like where there's so much like LinkedIn and things like these,
correct.
you have a lot of opportunities to go to many different places. So that way, the opportunities itself are very high.
Yeah.
Maybe consulting might give you a little higher than what. already high.
Sure.
Yeah.
Got it. So, just cutting back slightly to, let's say, your college times, what exactly was your thought process? I think you briefly covered this, but how exactly did you choose that consulting is what you really wish to do?
So to be honest, I was not that sure that I want to do just consulting. It wasn't like
Hmm.
that. I was
Okay.
open. Uh, the reason why I tried a lot to get into consulting was because I knew I would develop myself both personally and professionally
Correct.
in after working in a fast-paced
Hmm.
environment. That was a major reason why I wanted to go to consulting firm.
Hmm.
And actually, there was one more. Um, it just felt good when I saw like so many of my seniors who had gone
Hmm.
there,
Hmm.
and it just became like inspiring to me. I also want to go to a consulting firm. Like to be very honest, that was one, and the
Hmm.
second thing was that I knew I would like develop myself a lot.
Hmm.
So those were the two reasons, and I think the first one, which is about developing myself, which
Hmm.
is really happening. So
True.
that was my thought process.
Sure. And like coming to PORs during your campus life, like how
Hmm.
relevant do you think the learnings from that have been, or have they really been instrumental in getting to consulting as such?
Hmm. Maybe a little instrumental on my resume,
Hmm.
but my learnings from those, I think it's mostly about the people that you end up being with,
Correct.
right? So PORs and everything gave me a good set of people,
Hmm.
which I also have now. So
True.
learnings from POR, perhaps yes, but not that concrete I can think of. It's
Sure.
definitely a good place to be in. When you are on campus, you don't want to be empty. You want to do something. And if
Hmm.
you're not sure what you want to do,
Hmm.
you maybe take a POR, you make friends and explore.
Correct. Sure. Got it. So you touched upon the fact that it plays an important role in resumes, and I think in consulting it's common across all the companies that they go through a resume shortlist alone.
Yeah.
So, from your understanding, what exactly do they look for, and how can one sort of choose to stand out in terms of a resume to have a good enough chance here?
Hmm. So what they look for in the resume, that is, there is no one particular thing that they look for in a resume.
Sure.
I think, the main thing that they look in it is whether has this person worked or like worked hard in the institute life. I would think of it that way.
Hmm.
There are certain things like leadership, like problem solving, which consulting firms look at
Correct.
whether the candidates have it or no.
Hmm.
Hmm. I mean, do you want me to go into details of what specifically in resume do they
Like,
look
if
at?
you could a bit, because it seems quite ambiguous from an outsider's perspective, or especially from an aspirant's perspective. So, some details as
Hmm.
to sort of understanding, is it relevant? Like, is there a chance at consulting or not? Or how can you sort of better your chances would be helpful.
Okay. Okay. So firstly, it's different for different consulting firms, like the
Hmm.
resume shortlist. Okay.
Sure.
Secondly, what specifically? Now see, the way to prove yourself
Hmm.
or through a paper is like literally that paper is a resume that firms look at, right?
Correct.
So is different things like your CG,
Hmm.
like the activities you have done on campus,
Hmm.
any achievements you have had on campuses.
Hmm.
And yeah, I mean, like anything that you can put on paper, like
Hmm.
that's all I can think of, right?
Okay.
Um, so it could be internships, right?
Hmm.
So you can prove yourself using
Hmm.
a good CG. You can prove
Hmm.
yourself using the kind of internship you have managed to achieve, and
Hmm.
what you have managed to achieve in those internships. You can
Correct.
prove yourself with different curricular activities that you have done
Hmm.
on campus, and if you're passionate about something,
Correct.
you can prove yourself through different PORs, like you mentioned, that how you have leadership qualities as well. That's the other thing you can prove. And so all of these things, just prove that you are willing to learn more, you are willing to learn at a fast pace,
Correct.
and yeah,
Sure.
that's what I would think.
Correct. And the second aspect of the selection to consultancy in the interviews is predominantly the cases. So, like, sort of, if you could give a brief overview of what exactly a case is, and does it really relate to what your work lands up being ahead, or is that really just a selection criteria?
Hmm. Okay. Hmm. Actually, one more thing on resumes,
Hmm.
if I
Sure.
could just go back,
Not bad.
it also depends on like the individual, like your personal profile, like what you
Hmm.
have. So there is no like a ticks that you should have on your resume. It
Hmm.
because based on my experience, I've seen that whatever you have done,
Hmm.
you do well, you do that well, and
Correct.
then you portray that well. That's what the key
Sure.
is. Okay. So coming back to cases.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what you do as your case preparation,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
Where you learn how to solve different problems.
Hmm.
You learn how to think in first principles.
Hmm.
You think of structured problems. You think of solving problems in a structured way.
Correct.
Is something which you will do on the job as well,
Hmm.
because there are multiple things that you have to look at and
Correct.
think through critically.
Hmm.
But again, a day in the job
Hmm.
is different for different projects that you are
Correct.
working on.
Yeah.
For implementation, it would be different. For
Hmm.
strategy, it would be different.
Yeah.
Say what you learn at, what you do as a prep, right? In the
Hmm.
case preparation, it will definitely come handy on the job.
Got it.
Yeah, yeah.
Sure. And so, yeah, let's say I'm a student who's aspiring to pursue a career in consulting. What advice would you give in, say, better understanding the sector or sort of get a glimpse of consulting before really stepping foot into it? Like any
As
internships
in
might be
before.
a before, yeah, any internships or any sort of experiences that might be a good enough indicator to it, so that I can probably understand, okay, should I do consulting or not? Would there be something like that?
I think that will depend after you do consulting, you will realize whether you really would like it or
Sure,
no.
got it.
Internships as such, because this consulting firm won't provide us with internship opportunities.
Hmm.
It's so there's
Correct.
no so unless you work with a company, you wouldn't know how it is to
Correct.
work,
Sure, sure.
right?
Got it. Or any other skills or skill sets I can develop, or anything that would be an asset to an application if I want to sort of pursue a consulting career.
Mm. For a career or for
To sort of
like
start the career with the
to get.
consulting from campus, what sort of skill sets can I sort of hone, like if I have time? Maybe let's say if I'm a second or third year student, or what are some things I can sort of keep in mind, or some things I should really do which might be an asset to the application ahead? Or should it be that calculated at all?
I don't think it should be that calculated at all.
Sure.
Like when you're a second year or a third year, I think you
Hmm.
should just explore what are different things that come to you instead
Okay.
of being focused on
Hmm.
that this is one thing I want to get into.
Correct.
Because at that time you wouldn't know what it would be like, right?
Hmm.
It's actually unless you have done one internship, you wouldn't even know how it is to work.
Correct.
So I think you should explore, not
Hmm.
just working. You should explore research. You should explore anything you want to before you make up your mind for consulting. And for skill set as such,
Hmm.
um, so if someone has made up their mind that they definitely want to do it,
Hmm.
mm, I think the focus should just be on getting into one of those firms, right?
Hmm.
There's no, I mean, once you get in those firms, you will build the skill set you require on the job.
Correct. But any
Yeah.
prerequisites to make it to the firm, you would say that anything significant you might want to add?
Mm, to get into the firm is a structured process,
Hmm.
right? You make sure you have like a decent resume. You make sure you do your preparation accordingly.
Hmm.
Any prerequisite? I don't see any prerequisite as such.
Sure.
I mean, as long it's very simple, Ashish.
Hmm.
Like you just have to think of take things step by step,
Correct.
right? It's like first step would be resume.
Hmm.
If you want to get into it,
True.
you get a
Hmm.
shortlist, and then you work on cases, do well in your interview.
Sure.
So it's very step by step process.
Got it. So yeah, I mean, the previous question was in campus is sort of an image for consulting, like it's something very
Yeah,
top tier, hiked up. That's why the previous question. But
I think it's quite hyped on campus.
sure.
It's not usually the case in many undergrad colleges.
Hmm.
Like IITs tend to have that hype.
Hmm.
Other campuses in DU, they do not
Hmm.
have such a uh, such a hype, I would say, for consulting firms.
I see.
I think it's hyped in campus because many seniors,
Hmm.
who you look up to, have
Correct.
ended up in consulting firms,
Sure.
and it just got created over a period of time.
Yeah. So, like even sort of stemming from the same thing, like there's sort of an image of consulting. So, is there anything you might want to give as a caution to anyone aspiring, or anything that you might have expected from it, which it didn't exactly turn out to be?
Hmm. Yeah. So caution would be that it's not an easy job. You would have to, like, it might, so it's a good job. It is, you're going to learn a lot of things, right? You will have like you will learn a lot of things on the job
Correct.
for sure. And all of that will come at the cost of hard work, at the cost of, it can come at the cost of many things, honestly. So if there is something I should have known before I was applying for consulting firm, would be like someone telling me, see, you do not know anything when you enter the consulting firm, and you will be learning a lot. So that clearly means that you will have to work very, very hard to learn it. So I think that's the only caution uh, I would think graduate students should know.
Sure.
Does that make sense?
That makes sense.
Yeah, yeah.
And as for the format, like there's also a sort of a myth you could say. Not I don't know. I would ask you if it's a myth or not in campus that if you go to consult, like you can have a host of opportunities.
Mhm.
That is so from other cases for other career paths as well, right? Or is it just consult that really lets you really diversify into other sectors even down the line?
Hmm. So consult definitely gives you diversification, I would say. But there are opportunities everywhere you go, and
Correct.
opportunity is two-way, right? Opportunity comes and opportunity is taken.
Correct.
So it depends on the individual, I think, how
Ah,
they want to find opportunities and take opportunities.
true.
So yeah, it depends on the individual. Uh, it doesn't matter whether you go into a consulting firm or don't go to a consulting firm that much as how you yourself are looking for a certain opportunity and make efforts to achieving it.
Got it. Sure. So, like, given the current COVID situation and everyone's going from a work from home module, how has your day-to-day working really changed?
It has changed quite a bit, especially I think in consulting. I told you, right? 50% of the time, like you are probably with the client working
Correct.
on something.
Yeah.
So, so that time is now cut and it's all virtual. So working, I honestly, how has it changed? So although FaceTime has gone into virtual time,
Hmm.
clearly, creating a rapport with people you work
Hmm.
has also become slightly difficult because now you're not in person.
True.
Mm. Yeah, I think it has made quite a bit difference
Hmm.
uh, for working from home, but it's manageable, I would say. I
Sure.
mean, for a short period of time, yes, it's manageable, but
Hmm.
I definitely do not see consulting doing virtual working.
Hmm.
Like, it's definitely a job which requires face-to-face meeting with people.
Got it. Sure. So, another thing stemming from the same situation we are in is the upcoming placements is a bit of a concern for this current graduating batch, the 2021. So, is there sort of any advice or suggestions you might have for them as to what they can really utilize this time for and be better equipped
Hmm.
for placements or their further plans ahead?
Hmm. Yeah, I think everyone, right? Everyone
Hmm.
in campus should look within, should look for what they really want to do. Outside, there are people who have done all sorts of different things, have done that well. But what you truly, want to do is something should be encouraged on campus more
Hmm.
than it's currently. Everyone has a different passion for something different,
Hmm.
something which only they know or which only they can find out.
I see.
So looking for what they really want to do in the
Hmm.
future, what they really want to work as a
Hmm.
career, um, they should like you should strive.
Sure.
Yeah,
Got it.
yeah. That
So,
does that make sense?
does make sense really. I can say from a pre-final year's perspective. So, yeah.
Okay. Hmm.
So we'll just move ahead to a few of the questions we received from the students. We circulated a form with them and they have submitted a few questions. So uh, we've covered a few of them, so I'll just filter them out a bit if that's fine.
Sure.
So during first question is during resume shortlisting as well as during the interviews, how would a person who has done an internship in a large firm versus a person who has worked the startup fare, would there be any disparity?
Hmm. So I haven't done any resume shortlist yet, and I do not know
Sure.
how to answer this question.
Okay.
Uh, there might be some disparity because when you have worked in a large organization,
Hmm.
you have seen how things work in that organization,
Correct.
right? How generally things work. You
Hmm.
get a sense of that. You have
Correct.
that experience.
Hmm.
Whereas when you are working in a startup fair,
Hmm.
you you learn about different startups that are coming in.
Correct.
So both of them definitely, I think, have some knowledge gained.
Hmm.
But from a resume point of view of shortlisting, I do not know.
Sure. That's fine.
I mean, it could be maybe I could be slightly. Actually, I do not want. I do not know. So let's just leave it.
Sure. So the next question is, how different would your consulting experience be directly from campus as opposed to going through, let's say, 2 years after IIM, a management course?
Okay. So from an experience point of view, like with the firm,
Hmm.
you kind of start with a similar position.
Hmm.
Actually, not with a similar position. So there are two things.
Hmm.
One is the entry and one is
Sure.
the exit. Okay. So let me
Yeah.
talk about entry. So when
Yeah.
you're entering directly from campus, right,
Hmm.
from undergraduate, from IIT, for example,
Yeah.
you haven't had enough prior work experience.
Yeah.
And uh, honestly, you have not learned management as such.
Hmm.
Whereas when you enter from a IIM, right,
Hmm.
you usually tend to have some prior work experience.
Hmm.
like many people in IIM tend to work in some company for a couple of years and then enter IIM. So you tend to have some work experience. You also have some more internship experience,
Hmm.
and you have some management knowledge.
Correct.
So that comes actually very crucial in terms of how you work, how you manage different people, working with
Hmm.
people with different styles,
Correct.
and there are a lot of things that you will learn in obviously an MBA
Hmm.
that you would learn as an associate. So
Correct.
when you enter, you you definitely have more knowledge and experience in case of an IIM than an associate.
Correct.
Now, during your stay,
Hmm.
the kind of projects you get and everything is very similar, both for
Hmm.
associates and
Hmm.
for senior associates.
Hmm.
Associates are those who probably get from campus, and
Sure.
senior associates from those who get from IIM.
Got it.
So in terms of the experience there in BCG,
Hmm.
the project and everything is very similar. Both of you get very similar things to work on.
Hmm.
And while on campus you haven't learned enough, uh, you will learn in the process. So you will take some more time to adapt to situations during your stay in
Sure.
the firm. And while leaving, while leaving, I think the opportunities are significantly high for associates,
Okay.
yeah, than senior associates. Because I find many senior associates to actually stick with the firm for a long period of time because they have done their MBA, and
Correct.
it's not like they would look for another MBA to do.
It's true.
They can definitely switch firms.
Hmm.
I think they also make a more informed choice before getting into BCG itself or before
True.
getting into the firm as well. So
Consulting itself.
yeah, yeah.
Sure.
So yeah,
So,
that's the difference. Is that clear?
yeah, it's quite clear at least to me.
Okay.
So the next question is, if you could give some examples via of the projects that happen in consulting, maybe via ones which you have worked in during your time at BCG.
Hmm. Good question. So I've worked on two projects so far.
Sure.
One of the project was on merger uh, of three Indian banks, public sector banks.
Okay.
So our goal was to help them merge successfully. So merging will involve various things like
Hmm.
policies. There are different policies in three different banks.
Correct.
There are three different products used in three different banks,
Hmm.
right? So our goal was to like merge everything together and ensure all of this happens very smoothly. That three bank is going to become one bank.
Correct.
So there was a project context, and I was working to create a communication tool for them.
I see.
So the three banks together, the employees of the three banks didn't have any common platform to communicate with each other.
Hmm.
What usually happens is each bank has one network, right?
Hmm.
One network where all the which is updated on all of their systems, and they can talk to each other using this one network. Now there were three networks and we
Hmm.
had to merge it into one.
I see.
So so my work was around creating a new platform
Hmm.
of communication between the three companies so
Okay.
that we can also give them the updates for the merger, what are the new updates, what's happening, etc.
Sure.
So it involved um, it was so any product then comes like a product. So it was a tool is like a product.
Correct.
So it started with designing that product.
Hmm.
It started with implementing that product, generating content for that product, and
Correct.
finally ensuring that it's accessible and everyone is able to use it. That was the life cycle of it.
Got it.
So which is what I was taking care of,
Hmm.
and I was ensuring that everything happens in time. I was working with different stakeholders.
Hmm.
So for design, I was working with a certain team. You know, decide it was actually more like a product management kind of a role. But
I
it's
was
going
about
to
to
be
interject. Yeah.
yeah. So So that was one of the projects.
Sure.
There was other project on. So this was more like an implementation project,
I see.
right? And next was the strategy project where we were working with a bank to increase the productivity
Hmm.
in their sales force.
I see.
Basically, the objective was how can suppose one salesperson is able to sell for 100 rupees per
Hmm.
day.
Hmm.
So how can that move up from 100 to say 120 or 150? That was the goal. And so we were trying to understand different as the entire process, right, which
Hmm.
leads to a final sale of the product. So
Correct.
it's first getting go to talk to, and then
Hmm.
talking about your product, bringing them on board, doing all the formalities to finally ensure that the product is sold. So we were like studying the entire life cycle of that salesman and found out ways how they can improve, like where are their gaps, which all processes can be improved, what are other players in the market doing, our process with them,
Sure.
getting the best practices, and then making our suggestions to the client.
Got it. So, like, just so to give some perspective, what are the timelines on each of them? How long were each of these two
Uh,
projects?
so the merger project
Hmm.
for me was about 3 to 4 months. While the
Okay.
project is a long one because it's an
Hmm.
implementation project, it's a
Correct.
year-long project.
I see.
But so they usually keep you on the project for a certain duration of time. So
Okay.
I was on the project for 3 4 months, and then
Hmm.
on the strategy project, it was a 1 month project.
I see. Got it.
Yeah.
So the other question we have is, since consulting is primarily an advisory role, a lot of time deliverables would be a report with projections analysis. The impact ever gauged later? Like, I think this might be more relevant in the strategy kind of projects, maybe.
Mm. Hmm. So I actually think I'm not in the best position to answer this question because I haven't seen the
Hmm.
which which the recommendations have made
Correct.
uh, in a strategy project. So implementation project, though, it's very clear
Hmm.
that you work with them till you get those results which you had
Correct.
forecasted. That's so in that case you see the impact of whatever work you do.
Hmm.
The clarity project, not always, I would
Hmm.
say. I would say you give a certain recommendations. It totally depends on uh, how that particular project is managed. Not always is it conditions you have had with the client as well.
I see.
Yeah, there are certain projects, where the output
Hmm.
is linked to the income a firm will get.
I see.
So we say if we are able to help you bring X amount of profit,
Hmm.
that's when you sort of share like maybe X by 2 with us or 2X with us, whatever it is.
Got it.
So not always. It's very case to case basis.
Sure. So it may depend on how much the client also would want to involve the consulting firm.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
Sure. Uh, the next question is, are there times at which the client would be dictating the outcome of the project in a sense that you would be molding your findings to meet certain expectations they have?
Sorry, can you I didn't get that.
Yeah. So the question, like I just said it word for word, but basically I think the point
Hmm.
he's trying to ask is the outcome that you're trying to do in a consulting project sometimes dictated by what the client is expecting, or is it quite independent? Like, can you be independent rather?
You are working for the client.
Hmm.
So your outcomes are for the client,
Correct.
right? So and definitely there are two things. One is
Hmm.
you try to meet the client's expectations, right? And
Hmm.
second, if there is something which the client is not doing right, and you come out with a different set of things that the client should do, in which
Correct.
case I would call it more independent. And then you have to convince the client to why you think it's right or it's wrong.
I see.
Yeah. But yeah, you're working for the client to make the client
Yeah.
happy. And so you would do something which he or she likes.
True. True. So the next question is about again the work-life balance. So the question is, how exactly or how bad is the work-life balance in the consultancy, and in of course a pre-COVID situation, is does it involve a lot of travel?
Hmm. Okay. So I'll take the travel question first. I think travel will depend on your case, which case you are working on, which project you are working on.
Sure.
You also have some choice while picking which projects you want to work on. Maybe not in your first project, but over a period of time you get a choice. So you
Correct.
can choose projects which involves less travel, which are in your home city.
Correct.
So that way, I think you have a say whether you want to choose a travel project or a non-travel project.
Okay.
Okay, that's one. Second, on the work-life balance.
Hmm.
So this is such a common question. It's a good question. It's an important question also. I think there are two things to it. One is how you want to have your work-life balance and how ready are you, to say no.
Hmm.
A lot of times work will come to you and you feel you don't have an option but to say yes and do it.
Correct.
Many times you don't have an option, but you do have an option of, for example, say you are a morning person and you want to work in the mornings rather than nights. I think you can convey to your team saying that, hey, I'm more comfortable working in the morning
Hmm.
and I'm most productive then. So can we try to plan the work accordingly? So work-life balance is two-way. It's definitely one, how you take a step for yourself and stand for yourself.
Correct.
Uh, and secondly, the culture in the company itself.
Correct.
So, so consulting firms tend to have intense culture. Though most of the people you are working with are competitive.
Correct.
In such a scenario, you are also kind of expected to uh, deliver by the expectations set by other people on the case. So that's when it gets a little hectic, and and you have to manage that. And the other thing why I think work life balance can get difficult is because you keep working with new people
True.
and new projects all the time. So it's like you start from a zero. Say, for example, I worked with a finance company.
Correct.
I started from zero with no knowledge about the company. I built some knowledge, right? And then I shift to a consumer goods company. So again, here I start with a zero and build some
Correct.
knowledge. So this process is obviously not easy, right? You will have to. It's gonna be a little tough if you want to learn it. And the people you also work will also be different. They'll have different styles of working. Their expectations will be
Correct.
different. So that's when it gets a little tough or compared to another job where you
Correct.
start from zero, you learn certain things, say you learn up to 10, and then you keep building on the same thing.
Sure. Got it.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
So
Feel free to stop me in between if
yeah, definitely.
not.
So pretty much come to the last question actually. This question I think we have covered in parts previously, but I'll just ask it all the same if you want to add something. So the question goes like, so in consult, you're basically supposed to tell people from various areas and fields how to improve what they're doing. But when we join consult, you don't exactly have the knowledge about that sector, as we had discussed. So how are you able to tell the people how to do their job better?
Correct. Very good question. So here is where um, you reach out to other experts in the industry.
Okay.
The members on your team, right? The senior members on the team, they have been in consulting for a while, for about 10 years or more. And they
Correct.
also have experience in that same same sector. So, for example, say I'm working with this bank, right?
Correct.
Now there are say 6 members on my team, and there are say 2 of them who are very senior members. So who will have like 10 plus years. So they're partners basically who have
Correct.
10 plus years of experience. And uh, partners work in specific sectors. Unlike us who would be working with different sectors and exploring them, they have realized which sector they like and they work with clients in that specific sector.
Correct.
So the knowledge and everything comes from their experience. It comes from expert interviews you talk in the industry. And second is what you bring to the table is your problem solving. So what you do, you ask questions, you get information,
Correct.
and then you analyze that and come up with a solution. That is what you do and you bring to the table. And asking questions is with the client and is with the partners and like there are people to guide you. You're not the only person who are doing it.
Sure.
So that way, even if you don't have any knowledge from the start, you learn by asking, and there are people to guide you through what you should do.
Sure. So on a project, typically you aren't the only person working. Like as an associate, there would be a lot more people.
Definitely. So you will have a group of people from different tenures on the project. In fact, yeah. So on my project, I was the first year person who this is my first year.
Correct.
There were people who were 2 years into the company. There were people who were 3 to 4 years into the company, and there are people who are like 10 to 12 years into the company on this one same project.
Okay.
So whatever you do is like aligned with all the stakeholders, and that's when it's done.
Got it.
Sure.
Cool. I think that's pretty much it from our side. I think it was quite comprehensive, I think. So, yeah. So thank you so much for your time, Shruti. I'm sure I speak on behalf of the students that this was really insightful and really cleared out a lot of nitty-gritties of a rather ambiguous sector. So thank you again.
Yes, thanks a lot, Ashish. I think maybe just one more thing.
Yeah, please do.
When you all reach out to seniors and learn from their experiences, take everything with a pinch of salt, because like what I say is based on my perspective and my experience, right? And a same situation can lead to 10 different perspectives and 10 different people. So everyone is going to tell you about their own experience and perspective. Like what you as students should do is take everything with a pinch of salt and like use your intellect while taking your test.
Sure. Shall definitely keep that in mind. Yeah.
Perfect.
Cool. Thank you.
I hope this helped you some way or not yet. Okay.
I'm sure it did.
Cool. Okay. Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
Take care.
Bye. Yeah.